Blog Talk Radio.
Are you ready? The champ is here! It's just a man! Give me a hell yeah! What the rock is cooking? To be the man, you have to be the man! Big bubble pump! It's your hookup! Coffee in the big day.
It's Sunday night, and you know what that means. Famcast Media probably brings you the latest edition of Working the Marks. And yes, I am New Jersey's premier award-winning journalist, the Professor Fernando Uribe, and he is New Jersey's premier wrestling analyst, the PKM superstar, Patrick Kennedy, Mick Rivera. Join us here on Working the Marks. What's going on, baby?
Oh, hey, it's me. What up, white boy? How you doing?
I'm doing well, bro. What's going on?
No, I wasn't talking to you. I was talking to Dave.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
My bad.
Gotcha.
What up? What up, Dave? But nah, man, just happy to be back. Got another great show lined up for you people here. Yeah, just can't wait to talk about all the shit that's been going on, man. There's been a lot of excitement in the business lately, right?
Man, folks here on this rainy Sunday night, sharing is caring. Click that share button. And of course, check us out on all our great social media platforms. A shout out to D Rotten. I won't give up his government name. Our amazing executive producer, and he's the one really that makes this show happen every single week via StreamYard, on Facebook Live, as well as all the other social media platforms available there with Working the Marks. Pat, you said it, man. Let's get right to it here. Obviously, the WWE draft, the 2023 edition, took place this Friday from Corpus Christi, Texas. The game started the show coming out, talking about obviously the importance of this draft and what it would mean, and just maybe a little bit of a review here about the picks. Obviously, to no surprise, Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa, along with Paul Heyman, stayed on SmackDown. We also saw some interesting things, which I know kind of, I guess, raised the ire of a lot of marks.
What else is new?
Yeah, exactly. Apparently coming to SmackDown actually staying on SmackDown will be Hit Row, as well as Lacey Evans. But a lot of sort of movement towards the main brand, towards Raw. We started seeing Maxim male models move over to Monday Night Raw, which, again, I don't mind seeing Maxine on my TV screens on Monday nights. The Viking Raiders, bit of a surprise there. A reminder that Vince McMahon is not running creative for WWE because the three-time divorcee Zoe Starks moved from NXT to Monday Night Raw. Again, if you look at her, either she's a girl from downtown in Tunnelly Avenue, in downtown North Bergen, or probably down the shore at Asbury Park. Also staying on Raw is Dexter Lumis, in addition to Chelsea Green and Sonya Deville. Natalya moving over to Raw, which is interesting. A call from NXT, JD McDonough coming up. Candice LeRae staying on Raw. And another surprise, a move from NXT to the main roster. Apollo Crews is back on the Red brand. Those are some of the live updates, man, going on the draft, as well as apparently Bianca Belair, the reigning and defending Raw Women's Champion, is moving over to SmackDown. That kind of raised the ire of a lot of marks online. Like, wait a minute, why are we switching the champions, basically? I mean, do they have to switch the belts? Are they going to give it up? Something that I guess it didn't sit well with a lot of marks, but what caught your eye about the draft picks, man?
Let's just talk about that Bianca thing real quick there. So, like, of course, people are going to complain about that because they're going to be like, well, she's the Raw Women's Champion. She should stay on Raw, blah, 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 right? But, like, why don't you just let it marinate? Let it play out, because they're obviously going to do something where it's going to end up making sense in the long run. So, it's called creating programming. It's called creating television, creating storylines. You can't just do everything in one day and then that's it. That's not going to work. You have to do it over a long period of time.
Pat, I'm sorry to cut you off, but it seemed like it might seem like what's happened before, where the champions just exchange the title belts. And I guess sometimes fans bitch and moan about, like, well, wait, why do that? Why not just keep the champions on their brands? I mean, again, that sort of seems to be like the ongoing criticism of moves like that.
Well, people are talking about it though, right?
Sure.
People, I mean, they're commenting on their hashtags, on their mentions, on everything else, right? They're involved, and that's the biggest thing, and that's what you really want. You want people involved. You want people talking about your product. So it's a smart thing to do. They might swap it, they might not. They might make a match. They might do something. Let's see what happens. But I think that the draft is a good thing, especially for such a big roster that the WWE has between, obviously SmackDown and Raw and, the developmental show NXT. It's really good to see some of those people that were down there that were really busting their humps, having good matches, making a good impression, having a good attitude, getting a chance to be able to do their thing on the main roster. So I'm excited for it. I look forward to it. Ultimately, I think both shows are going to be really, really good. Obviously, you kind of want to think that SmackDown will be the better show because Roman's there, but let's see where they go. I'm pretty excited about it.
Obviously, speaking of Roman Reigns, one of the big news items this week, and I know we can thank our illustrious pro wrestling, the best pro wrestling analyst we know around, again, PKM. What's interesting? I mean, I know you sent this through. In full disclosure, folks, a shout out to Billy Body, obviously, who we get a lot of our wrestling news from. But Pat, I know you said something over this week. Apparently, what was on a paywall, or at least some news that was being provided. I'm just going to share this with our audience who are not familiar. Apparently, about ongoing heat that's existing right now between Roman Reigns, not necessarily between him and Vince McMahon, but obviously involving him and Vince McMahon collectively. Billy Body reporting this week that Vince McMahon was the biggest advocate for Roman Reigns to remain as the undisputed WWE Universal Champion following WrestleMania 39. As previously reported, again, via Billy Body, and again, you have to correct me, you have to sort of fill in the blanks for me, man, in terms of like the specific website that he uses for this. It escapes me now, but it was being reported that Roman Reigns was set to drop his title to The Rock, which was subsequently been cashed in on by the Money in the Bank winner, which would have been Cody Rhodes. Again, there was a lot of hoopla, folks, going around in January, February that Money in the Bank would stop being a PLE and resume back to being an attraction at WrestleMania. That idea was scratched, apparently, with the notion that Dwayne Johnson was not going to appear at WrestleMania to face his cousin, Roman Reigns. So obviously the alternative was going to be Cody winning the Rumble and subsequently challenging Roman. Subsequently, this would have given Roman his promised 4-month break from WWE television. When The Rock was swapped out for Cody, many believed, including Triple H, that the plan would remain in place for Roman to drop his belt and to take the extended vacation that was promised to him. And while the belts would eventually be split up, however, Vince McMahon was not ready to pull the trigger on ending the title run for Roman Reigns. Vince McMahon ultimately made the call to not, quote, finish the story at WrestleMania in Los Angeles, thus causing huge complications for splitting the titles. When Vince decided and told Roman and Creative that he was keeping the titles, he did not secure any additional dates for Roman to appear during the vacation. Triple H and others assumed that Roman would play ball after he initially agreed to stay on and appear at Raw. However, Roman has not been agreeable when it comes to any further dates. Roman is refusing to attend any of the draft shows. As we saw, he was not on Friday night on SmackDown in Corpus Christi, Texas. He also will not be appearing at the upcoming Backlash PLE or the upcoming Money in the Bank PLE, which emanates out of London during 4th of July weekend. Will also not be at the Night of Champions PLE in Saudi Arabia, which coincidentally would be the exact 1,000th day for him to be as the undisputed WWE Universal Champion. It's also unlikely for Randy Orton to be ready in time for either show, as he's not been medically cleared yet. While Roman now unlikely will not culminate his 1,000th day at the Night of Champions, it's put significant heat on both Reigns and McMahon. Furthermore, it was said to be Vince's decision to keep Roman as the 2-belt undisputed champion and introduce a third belt rather than stripping him of the one title, believing that Roman Reigns' presentation should remain untouched and not lessened in any way whatsoever. Reigns, obviously, it was being speculated to be drafted to SmackDown as the number 1 pick, which he was, where he'll keep both belts, but he will not attend either show as per his agreement. A lot to unpackage there, Pat, but thanks to you, obviously, for sharing that and obviously making that available for our audience today. Pat, what do you make of all this clusterfuck?
So first off, the website that I got it from, and it's through Billy Body's paywall. It's thedirtysheets.com. I recommend everybody check it out. He's always got great, spot on, accurate information, the kind of scoops that you're not going to get from anybody else. And by the time the other people get them, it's already old news. So I definitely recommend checking that out. So here's the thing with Roman. It's really interesting because he was promised a lot of time off in the past. And, he had to pay back that time that he was away, during the pandemic and stuff like that. And I think that they've come to the point where he's finally made up that time and he's going to get that time off that he was originally promised when he was supposed to get it. So right now, he doesn't really want to budge. He wants to, take his time, get better, heal up. Maybe he wants to spend time with his family. Here's another thing that people also tend to forget. He has leukemia. So, this could play a part in it too. We don't know. But if I had to guess which show he might come back at, I mean, all those other ones, the Backlash doesn't really seem like he's going to make it. I would probably say for the 1,000 days, he would probably end up making Night of Champions, maybe. But, I don't see that really. I don't see that happening, I guess, maybe, as far as things are looking right now. But if he did show up, it might be that one. It might be that one. Money in the Bank, same thing. Doesn't really have to be there. The fact that they're creating another world title is telling you the fact that maybe Roman's going to be gone for a while, so it'll give the fans something to kind of rally behind. If I had to guess, I would say a babyface is going to end up winning that title. And I think that that's going to be the guy that probably will be the one to, dethrone Roman somewhere down the line. But I just think this just adds to Roman's heat, him not being around. This is really going to put him over the top. And I see him holding on to that belt till WrestleMania 40. Honestly, I really, really do. And I think he's gonna do a lot of good stuff between now and then. It's been rumored that Edge is going to end up having a retirement match or a career match with Roman somewhere down the line, where Roman's going to retire him. So I think that would be really, really awesome. I mean, for Roman, it's great. For Dom, that would be something good too. But Dom's probably going to end up doing something with his dad somewhere down the line. So he's just going to have massive, massive, massive heat. I mean, to the point where every March is going to be like, well, he's not there, and why should they even give him the title? Roman's going to show up and, Vince McMahon, all the usual bullshit that you hear from the fucking marks. That's what you're going to end up hearing a lot of. And I think that the heat that Roman's going to have on him between now and WrestleMania 40 is going to be something that we've never seen before.
I agree with you, man. And certainly a lot there. And obviously, which segues into the next topic here. This past Monday night on Raw, Paul Levesque unveiled the new WWE World Heavyweight Championship. And it's certainly, when you look at the title belt, and certainly they did not waste any time in making it available at WWEshop.com for a mere $500 American dollars. Jesus Christ.
Money never sleeps, Fernando.
I know, and it never does. And certainly he unveiled, and it was interesting because of the way that Paul Levesque phrased it, right, during the actual announcement about Monday Night Raw needs a champion that will be available full time. Yeah. That doesn't just come and go when he pleases, right? Which is kind of funny, right? It's like sort of like taking a dig at Roman.
But you know what they're doing when they do stuff like that? They're getting the marks upset. They're like, yeah, see, even he knows it, and it's just like, great.
No, of course. And when you look at the actual title, it's a bit of an homage to the old NWA/WCW World Heavyweight title, the title that Ric Flair, the real world's champion, made famous in the early 90s.
And Goldberg, and the legendary Goldberg. Goldberg made it really, really famous.
Yeah. And a whole bunch of other guys held that title. Bret the Hitman Hart.
Goldberg, though, especially. I mean, Goldberg was just drawing great ratings, filling up stadiums.
Chris Benoit.
Never heard of him.
Neither is WWE creative anymore, or Peacock. As well as other wrestlers. We all know the affinity that a lot of the marks have for that old World Heavyweight title belt, right? Reminds us about Ric Flair. A nice homage, obviously, with the WWE logo on it. It's interesting, though, that as soon as the announcement came out on Monday night, you saw wrestling Twitter was a buzz. All the marks were just complaining, from like the usual, talking heads on Twitter to like the usual podcast guys on Tuesday morning, Meltzer, Alvarez, Wade Keller, obviously Sean Ross Sapp. And I think that there was this sort of consensus among all these dirt sheet writers and marks online. What a waste of time. It's a secondary belt. It's not as important. It's kind of just the bronze medal, the compensation, or the participation trophy, for just being there on Raw. And I just think it's funny that the title got so many people worked up. Where, let's be honest, it seems, and to your point, obviously it's being reported now that between now and next year in the dump of these United States, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, the site of WrestleMania 40, is supposed to be a rematch of Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns, where I guess maybe the idea is for Cody to finish the story in Philadelphia, right? The home, the birthplace of liberty, the birthplace of our freedoms, right? Independence.
And ECW.
NECW, the birthplace, Independence Hall, where the Constitution was written, everything that's the American persona of Cody Rhodes, right? So, okay, but between now and then, man, that's a long time to keep that Cody Rhodes babyface run where, bro, we run the risk of a little Cody fatigue, and I think that's not something that can't go unnoticed either.
You think? Do you think that, honestly? Like, you really think that the fans...
No, I don't think so. But I mean, again, the speculation is that how can you keep this going with Cody another, not a full calendar year, but almost close to a calendar year of trying to keep him hot, trying to keep him, I guess, not within the good graces of the fan, sort of the audience in all the shows, but for the most part, his merch is still going to sell. He's still cutting great promos. But what do you do, obviously, with him and Lesnar coming up this Saturday at Backlash? What do you do after that? I mean, who knows how that's going to get booked? You would think maybe Cody wins that match, but hey, something can always happen last minute.
Well, a lot of the guys that are flipping out about it are usually guys that are not very pro WWE. Even when WWE knocks it out of the park, they find something negative, tiny little thing, or Vince was breathing in the same room that this decision was made, and just the usual bullshit that Marks always spew out. The funny thing to me is like, weren't these people all crying out for another world championship? Didn't they want to see the title split? Didn't they want there to be two world champions?
But they wanted the world champions. They wanted it the way they wanted it. They want the title split. It's not enough to compensate their fandom. They wanted it the way they want it. Right.
Well, I mean, why should Roman have to lose or get a title taken away from him that he never got pinned for? You know what I'm saying? Like, it makes no sense to me to take the title off of Roman when he's never been pinned. Nobody's beat him for those titles, let alone one. So that right there. I mean, come on. But I mean, Marks are going to complain. These guys, the usual suspects, they're all going to have something bad to say about it. Cornette, he's not going to like it, because I don't know, it's not something they would have done in the territories. And Brian Last isn't going to like it because it's WWE and he hates all things WWE. I mean, all these people have some sort of an agenda. So I think it's up to you as a viewer to decide whether it's good or not based on the kind of matches that you get, the kind of stories that you get, and whether it really resonates with you. You know what I mean? But like this bullshit, it's always going to keep going, and these people are never going to be happy no matter what. And all these aforementioned journalists, they're all going to have their anti-WWE agenda because, we know who they like.
I mean, I'm a journalist. I hate being grouped in with those guys masquerading as journalists. I don't know. I take offense whenever I hear those people being referred to as journalists when I'm a journalist. I'm saying that's just me, But I have my credentials to prove that. I mean, I can't say the same for them, but I had to sneak that in there.
So, I know. You couldn't help it.
I couldn't help it. Of course not. Moving on to some other interesting chatter, Pat, that is really getting the Marks riled up here. A top AEW star was responding to criticism of a new T-shirt that hit the market. Now, in the April 19th episode of Dynamite, which didn't rate very well based on traffic, and
I'm shocked.
I know, right? More on that later. Of AEW Dynamite, Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, was the victim of an attack from the Outcasts, not to be confused with that great band from Georgia. Of Saraya, Tony Storm, and Ruby Soho, which was orchestrated by Chris Jericho in their attack of Adam Cole, baby, being handcuffed to the ropes while it all unfolded. After the show, Baker shared an image of her black eye from a segment on Twitter, which the Outcasts later turned into a T-shirt that they wore on AEW television. Apparently now All Elite Wrestling has released a shirt on shopaew.com, which Baker then advertised, coincidentally, on her Twitter account. The shirt design has received a lot of backlash from fans for allegedly promoting domestic violence, as the shirt simply features a photo of Britt with a black eye and nothing else. Baker responded to the fan who disapproved of the design, stating, quote, on Twitter, "Supports domestic violence? How? I got a black eye in the ring, question mark. My enemies put a pic on a shirt to troll me, and I outsmarted them. Does that mean all the top-selling bloody T-shirts are supporting murder? If a male wrestler had a shirt with a black eye, who would you be this pissed?" Baker also cited previous shirts that were released by AEW, such as her original role model T-shirt, which featured her bloody face from the Lights Out match against Thunder Rosa. Obviously, all that is available on AEW, shopaew.com. Pat, it's interesting about what this represents, because number one, listen, Britt Baker's not known, and we talked about this off the air. Obviously, the famous shirt of Stone Cold Steve Austin bleeding profusely while he was in a submission hold, which he never tapped out to at the hands of Bret the Hitman Hart back at WrestleMania 13. That was iconic. Obviously, that bloody shirt sold millions over the years, right? And especially during the Attitude Era. But that's a guy that we all know, Stone Cold Steve Austin. Britt Baker is not a household name, only to that audience. Now, could we caption a little bit better? Maybe, but I just think it's just fans and people just looking to get offended by something, which, again, it's Sunday night. It's not Monday night. That's usually a talking point I would make. But it just seems like people looking to get offended about something and anything and everything, which gets a little exhausting at some point.
I mean, I don't see a problem with somebody not liking domestic violence. I think it's all right to be against domestic violence. But I mean, imagine you're a person who doesn't watch wrestling, right? And the only wrestling is WWE, right? That's what you've grown up with. You remember WCW somewhat, or maybe ECW. You remember the Attitude Era, essentially. But WWE's been the standard. And you might not watch it, but you'll know a bunch of wrestlers from it, right? So here comes somebody at a bar that you're hanging out with, and they're wearing a T-shirt with a girl with a black eye. You're going to look at that and you're going to wonder, what's this about? Is this his girlfriend? Did he beat her up? What the fuck's going on here? So I can understand why people who don't know AEW, and we know that there's a lot of people out there that don't know AEW, there's numbers to back that up, why they would be bothered by it, or why they might be like, what the hell is this? You know what I mean? I can kind of see where that would come from. As far as it goes with, modern day marks that might not like that, or they might be against. I mean, listen, bro, you wouldn't have lasted 2 seconds in ECW. All right. You wouldn't have made the Attitude Era. You wouldn't have been able to hang in any of that if that's what's going to bother you. And look, it's fine. People can be bothered all they want. You can voice your opinions. Hell, we're a couple of schmoes right now voicing our opinions. You know what I'm saying? That's okay. But I just think it's more of the nonsense with AEW that's just going to blow over. Honestly, I don't think Britt Baker should have answered at all. I don't think she should have said anything. I think she should have just let fans go on and on and on and on and on. You're above that. You're a wrestler. You shouldn't be paying attention to what marks are saying. You know what I'm saying? So that's a whole other thing for another time. But it seems like it's a lot to do about nothing.
No, I agree with you. But what's interesting, though, is, again, this is where Tony Khan, and I think the entire brain trust, and I use that term loosely, within AEW as a structure, as a company, should be encouraging their wrestlers. Don't address you said it perfectly. Don't address a mark online. Just let the shirt sell. People are going to wear it. It creates what I would argue a sympathetic tone towards Britt Baker right now. I mean, really, it's her and the AEW Women's Champion Jamie Hayter, who are outnumbered by the Outcasts. Focus on that. The idea that you should be telling your talent, listen, don't address marks, don't give them any validity, don't give them even a breath of air to breathe, because what happens is once you answer a mark, it emboldens them. It's you can just screenshot it, retweet. Oh, look, Britt Baker answered me. And a lot of these marks, a lot of these neckbeards, right, that get triggered by anything when it comes to pro wrestling, or feel the need to object to something. Okay, what Britt wrote was correct, but she shouldn't have verbalized it. Again, the idea of Stone Cold Steve Austin and his face bleeding profusely at the hands of Bret the Hitman Hart, was that advocating the Faces of Death, those famous DVDs from the 90s, and murder and heinous violence? No, it was part of an angle. And to your point, like you said perfectly, was the idea that people know who Stone Cold Steve Austin is. So it's not difficult to have to articulate or justify what it means. If you don't know Britt Baker from your local, I don't know, barista at Starbucks, because she looks like a typical, let's say, barista, you know, you're not going to know. And you walk in somewhere into any venue whatsoever, and you wear that T-shirt, I mean, it's going to draw some eyes on you. Hey, what's that mean? And then when you have to explain it to someone, which again, as pro wrestling fans, I think we've always had those awkward moments where like, oh, what's that shirt mean that you're wearing? Macho Man or the Man or DX or whatever. I mean, take your pick, bro. We don't have enough fingers and toes to name T-shirts that we've bought and worn in public where someone stares at us and say, what does that mean? Like, who is that? Or what are you wearing? And you almost feel like anger. Like, what do you mean? Like, how do you not know who fill in the blank is? Or how do you not know what fill in the blank this is? It's, again, I just think it's a bad look for Tony Khan again to tell his talent, hey, don't address the marks. Don't acknowledge them. Because if you do, all you're going to do is just, again, you're going to pour gasoline on a fire that doesn't need more.
Not only that, but like no answer will ever suffice for them. You know what I mean? Nothing that's going to be said is ever going to be enough. So I just think that you're better off to just leave it alone. You're better off to just continue doing your thing and just forget about what these people are saying, because they're always going to have opinions anyway, and nothing is ever going to work. And their opinions change probably a lot more than they change their own underwear. So, you know, nothing is ever going to satisfy. But I just think, you know, to Fernando's point, you know, Tony Khan really has to make it a point to stop doing this himself and to also relay that message to the talent.
You need to rephrase it. You mean God?
Who?
Because he's the greatest booker, you know, of the year. You know, it's God.
Oh, well, maybe to some people. I don't know. Maybe people who were in a time capsule and they woke up. I don't know. Maybe people lost in space. I don't know who. I mean, it's just a lot of the same old shit with them. I think it speaks to how amateur the mentality still is there, how indie the mentality still is there. Because look, for an indie wrestler to go after a mark online, that's pretty normal. That's pretty normal. You see that quite often. But for somebody who is on a nationally syndicated television show, even if they're not drawing the best ratings, you should still present yourself as a star. You know, I'm sure there's a lot of people that have a lot of negative things to say about Charlotte Flair, Becky Lynch, Bayley, all these other women. They don't engage. They don't engage. And if they do it in a way where it's gimmicky and it's interesting and it enhances their character, you know, but they're not going to argue with every single mark about stuff because they know what they are. They're stars and they don't need to do that.
Well, certainly something to keep an eye out for, because I'm sure that this will continue to sort of just pick up some fire online. We know listen, if anything emboldens the marks and galvanizes them to continue bitching and moaning, I'm sure this is one of those things. Some Impact news, which I know we don't share too often on the show, being the resident Impact aficionado here on the program, folks. Apparently CM Punk seems to be making his rounds at tapings at different companies around the country. And coincidentally, Impact Wrestling did their tapings this past weekend in the windy city of Chicago. And according to various sources, as they were taping Spring Slugfest in Chicago with Impact Wrestling at the Cicero Stadium, which is, you know, a small venue, but that's what Impact can fill at this time. And they do a good job of doing that. Apparently, CM Punk was welcomed there and brought through by former Knockouts champion, now known as the Juggernaut, Jordan Grace, and also was invited by Mercedes Moné and Trinity Fatu, who this past week, the wife of Jimmy Uso, signed a contract with Impact Wrestling. Details are not known at this time about the length of the contract, but Trinity Fatu was to premiere this weekend in Chicago during the Impact tapings. A good pickup for that women's division, which is, again, is a little thin, only with Deonna Purrazzo, the reigning and defending Knockouts women's champion in Impact Wrestling, as well as the Juggernaut, Jordan Grace. You have a couple of other talented ladies that's still a little bit green, like Masha Slamovich and a few others, but certainly a big catch for Impact Wrestling to land Trinity Fatu. But again, it just seems like CM Punk is making the rounds and either taking photos with talent backstage or being spotted. Seems like a clean-shaven look. Seems to shave most of the hair off of his head, growing a little bit of a beard, wearing his Blackhawks. He's a big hockey fan, obviously. Wearing his Blackhawks cap to the tapings. What do you make of this, bro?
I think he's just hanging out. He misses pro wrestling. He misses the business. He misses being around it. I can tell you personally, being in a ring, and anybody who's ever been in a ring, whether as a manager, a ref, a wrestler, especially a wrestler, once you get in there, you get in front of a crowd. It doesn't matter if it's 10, 15, 25, 25,000, 85,000. The rush that you feel when you are out there is unbelievable. It is greater than any drug, any drink, anything you can find out there. Maybe even better than sex. I know it's hard to believe for some people out there, but
Jesus Christ.
I'm telling you, man, when a guy like Ric Flair feels the need to still have to come back in some type of capacity, be in front of a crowd, you got Hulk Hogan, who's been trying to have a match for forever, and the poor guy's falling apart. All these people, they're all falling apart, all these old timers. But if you gave them a chance to get back in there and do it again, they would love to. They would love to because of that feeling that you get out there. And I think Punk being away from the business as long as he was made him miss that feeling. He lost, the loving feeling. And I think once he came back and he felt that again, he just wanted more and more and more of it. And I think being on the bench for as long as he's been since Brawl Out happened, has only intensified that desire to want to be around wrestling again. So I look forward to see where his journeys take him next.
Certainly. And just a little bit of FYI for our audience, Trinity Fatu did appear on Friday night during the tapings, that she was there for one reason, and that was to challenge for the Impact Knockouts Women's World Championship. She was later interrupted during the segment by Knockouts champion Deonna Purrazzo and subsequently Jordynne Grace. She will be making her in-ring debut against Killing King, and obviously that will air this Thursday, May the 4th, on AXS TV. Please check your local cable providers or streaming services to where you can catch AXS TV, obviously, and catch Impact Wrestling live every Thursday from 8 p.m. Eastern Time until 10 p.m. Eastern Time. I do watch it religiously. So don't laugh. Listen, 20 years in counting and they're still around. I doubt Tony Khan will be able to say that in 2 decades. So at least, you know what? Say what you want about Impact. They're still around. So,
I got respect for Impact, man. They've been doing their thing. They adapted. They're still around. They're still a place for people to get paid. And Scott D'Amore is a smart wrestling guy. The people that they have working there are smart wrestling people. So they have a little bit of everything, I think, for everybody there. And that's a good mix. So I think Trinity is going to do good there. I think she's going to be able to help elevate some of the talent. I would love to see her in Japan at some point with Sasha or Mercedes. I think that would be pretty cool too.
And again, folks, for all the sort of not the heat, but the ridicule I get as an Impact fan, say what you want, folks. Impact was the only company after the fall of WCW that said, you know what, let's try to take it to WWE in 2010. And they did. That first Monday, January the 4th, 2010, when Bret the Hitman Hart returned after a long hiatus to face Vince McMahon and Shawn Michaels, Hulk Hogan debuted that Monday night also on Impact Wrestling. They tried it for a few months. It didn't work, but you know what? Good for them. They took their poker chips in the middle of the table and they tried, which is more than I can say for Tony Khan, because we both know, folks, and everyone at home watching, Tony Khan is never going to take Dynamite and move it to Monday nights. He just won't. He just knows that it'll be a bloodbath of almost maybe like a Michael Myers, Jason Voorhees, and Jigsaw all compiled together. That's what's going to happen. But again, let's give our flowers to Impact. 21 years now in counting that they're still going. They're working smaller venues. Their TV production is still pretty good, Pat.
No, I mean the TV production is good. The quality is good. I'm never going to deny that. But they're not what they once were. Sure. They're always going to be the team that pushed Vince McMahon after WCW. I mean, they're always going to be the company that did that. And you got to give them credit for that. I know that
2 million at one point.
2 million, man.
2010 to 2011, 2012, they were averaging about 2 million viewers. So Tony Khan isn't averaging that, and he's not going to anytime soon.
And that's a ballsy Raw to go against with Bret coming back, burying the hatchet and all that stuff. He could have buried the hatchet at the Wild Rover, but he didn't know where that place was. But
I mean, hey, again, he went to face Vince McMahon after the Montreal Screwjob in '97, so that was going to get ratings no matter what.
Yeah, absolutely.
Speaking of ratings, let's get to them now here. Starting off with Raw, Pat. I was a little disappointed on this because I thought that, and even though it was a slight bump from the week before, I thought with sort of the buzz going around, possibly a championship, maybe the draft, that it would have been a little bit higher. Yeah, you had some NBA playoff games, some hockey games as well. But by and large, a 1.82 this week compared to 1.815, 1.818. It peaked, obviously, the day after meeting. No surprise there, 2.26. I thought it would have been a little bit of a higher rating. 1 point, again, especially with the aforementioned, but still a solid number on Monday Night Raw, as always.
Yeah, it just seems like, that's kind of like the range. That's like their little area that they kind of just hang out at. Obviously, it picks up a little bit depending upon who's on the show and stuff like that. I mean, we're probably going to see it pick up a little bit more. I think the closer we get to, the bigger shows and stuff like that. I'm expecting, tomorrow's Raw is probably going to get a decent number because now they have all those new guys that are on there and they're probably going to, get some feuds started.
They have to finish the draft. They have to finish it tomorrow.
Oh, they have to finish the draft. So after they finish the draft, then that talent can perform for that specific brand. Is that how it works?
Yeah, Triple H announced on Friday that after this coming up Raw, that the new rosters will take effect the Monday after Backlash. So that's a week from tomorrow. Yes.
Gotcha. Okay, so it's just going to be more or less the same people, or is everybody from the both brands going to be on it?
Hard to say. I don't want to confirm or deny either that point, but I know that the draft completes tomorrow, so who knows? There might be some more movement tomorrow. I mean, again, you saw that a lot of people are moving to SmackDown. Raw got some names. Maybe there's still some NXT call-ups that haven't caught up. Again, for all we know, maybe Braun Breaker shows up tomorrow, right? Who knows?
Yeah. I mean, we I think we just got to tune in and see. But I expect for them to continue doing that number and maybe even get the twos again. Regardless, man, they're consistently nailing that number. They're putting on good stuff. They've been having great matches lately. I expect more of the same.
And again, I mean, not to sort of make excuses for it, but again, because of television consumption, Pat, I can't say enough about, listen, these NHL playoffs have been super exciting.
They have.
Okay? These games are going to take away a little bit of an audience that maybe tends to watch wrestling too on Monday. Same thing with the NBA playoffs. And of course, it's Monday, but the next round's coming up in the Western Conference, by the way. Shout out to my Lakers closing out. Woo!
Oh, it's the Lakers this year?
Well, maybe.
What about the Knicks? Go back to your Knicks, bro. That's your first love.
My Heat today with a nice win at the Garden. I don't know. We'll see.
Your Heat versus what? Your Knicks? You're a freaking basketball polygamist, this guy. I mean, I don't know.
Hoe. Just say it. I'm a hoe. Just call me a hoe on the air. Just call me.
Yeah, bro. You're a hoe for basketball teams. You really are. No loyalty,
But in all seriousness, I mean, again, there's a lot of television consumption out there, man. The NBA playoffs have been exciting. Every round, every series has been exciting. Every NHL series has been exciting. I would
a lot of game sevens too in the NHL. Exactly. I mean, we got a big game 7 tomorrow night. Let's go Devils. Let's fucking do it.
Let's beat the Broadway Blue Skirts in center packing. Baseball's still in high gear, as they say. I'll be honest with you, Pat, I wouldn't be surprised the Raw after Backlash. Obviously, that's when the new rosters take effect. Don't be surprised, maybe back up in the twos. It's still doing a solid number. For all intents and purposes. So it's nothing to panic about. Speaking of panicking about numbers, let's move on to Wednesday. And again, folks, a little bit of a bump from the previous week, but still a very measly 863,000 this past Wednesday on Dynamite. A main event of, Kenny Omega and Takeshita. I forget what his name is, but Takeshita teaming up with Kenny Omega. Takeshita, he's a New Japan star, teaming up against Claudio Castagnoli and Jon Moxley. Obviously, as well, what's a mere 863,000 compared to the previous week, 830,000. Back to April 12th, 866,000. April 5th, 877,000. Back to March, 833,000. I mean, folks, March 22nd, we had 954,000. Even before that, February 22nd, a little over a million, 1.028, and then January 25th, 1.003 million. In another convoluted show where, you got to see Adam Cole confront Chris Jericho. He got jumped along with those who saved him, Orange Cassidy and Bandito. The return of Roderick Strong, somehow fending off 5 grown men.
Bandito,
yeah, reuniting with Adam Cole on the show. A good feel-good moment, again, for those of us who love the Undisputed Era in WWE. Just a bad show, man.
Where is Fish?
Orange Cassidy defending the coveted International Heavyweight Championship against Bandito. Good match for that audience, obviously. Just, bro, another bad rating. And it's mind-boggling to me that whoever's watching this thinks that they're going to fill up an NBA/NHL/NCAA arena in Las Vegas at the T-Mobile Arena for Double or Nothing Memorial Day weekend, the same night as NXT Battleground, the same weekend as, I believe, Night of Champions in Saudi Arabia the night before, the night before Under Siege on Friday, the Impact pay-per-view. A good weekend of wrestling. Again, Pat, it drives me crazy to see marks and friends of mine that will ostracize me and just smear me and say, what are you doing? Why are you so down AEW? Because the numbers say it. This is a niche product. Look at how bad this number is. It's atrocious.
Yeah, but you know what? It was a stacked card.
It was.
Okay? That's what they're all going to say. It was a stacked card. What a stacked card. I mean, I don't even watch it anymore. I'll peek in every now and again at the.
You rely on me for the results. I rely
on you. I rely on you because I can't watch it. It does nothing for me. You know what I'm saying? And I try to watch it to see the good guys that are in there, the talented guys that are in there. And even then, it still gets a little frustrating to watch. But it just seems like this is gonna keep being the trend. This is their level right now. Whether CM Punk comes back or not remains to be seen. If he comes back, is that going to help it? One would assume so, right? They'd probably get back in that million range, right? But I mean, even then, I think the rumor is that he's going to a Saturday show. So that's not going to really do anything for Dynamite. I don't know, man. I just think that they're spitballing a bunch of ideas. They're trying to see what sticks and then kind of go from there.
Well, it's funny. I'll let you finish. I'm sorry. But
Sure.
Speaking of spitballing ideas, I mean, that pretty much was the essence of this past Wednesday, right? We were having the finals of the Pillars tournament, really with 3 people. And obviously, Sammy Guevara faced Darby Allin. They recreated the Eddie Guerrero, Rey Mysterio type of thing where MJF would come down to ringside, throw the skateboard at Darby. He would catch it. Guevara would act as if he got smacked in the face. He's laying there, playing the injured card to the referee who was distracted by Ty Conti and her beautiful Brazilian ass and, on the apron, and subsequently disqualifying Darby Allin. Thus, Sammy Guevara would face MJF for the AEW World Heavyweight title in Las Vegas for Double or Nothing. And then subsequently, Tony Schiavone stands up and says, as per Tony Khan, which boggles my mind, if you're good enough to go make an announcement about the return of the Owen Hart Memorial Tournament Invitational Cup Championship in May or later on in May, why can't you just come onto the stage and say, hey, no, guess what? You're not going to get away with this. We're going to make a tag match, which is set for next week. It's going to be Jungle Boy and Darby Allin teaming up against Sammy Guevara and MJF. And if Darby Allin and Jungle Boy Jack Perry win, then they get added to the match, thus making it a fatal 4-way, which is what we thought was going to be to begin with. But this entire clusterfuck and this entire long, dragged-out storytelling, I guess, which AEW fans like, this could have been done a lot more succinctly and a lot more compactly instead of this sort of just throwing shit on a wall thinking, this will make sense eventually. I don't get it sometimes with the booking.
Bro, he so made special announcements. Special announcements played the fuck out.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, totally.
Well, yeah, they've kind of lost their importance. And again, man, I feel like a broken record. It's a lot of the structure. It's a lot of the structure that's the problem there. And I think he's trying to play serious company now. Yes.
I think when Paul does it, I think Paul when Paul Levesque does, Triple H is going to be. Have you noticed he's been on
he's trolling him. He's trolling him. I think he's totally trolling him. Yeah,
that's all it is.
Yeah. Which is that's very Triple H. That's a very Triple H thing to do. And it's like, even though he's got a suit on, he can't wrestle no more. He shaved his head. He's still saying "suck it" to motherfuckers. You know what I'm saying? He's still crotch chopping, and he's still showing up. Knocking at the door at WCW. But I just can't, dude. I just can't. I can't get into it. There's nothing compelling. There's nothing interesting. The only thing that might make me peek in again is probably to see when CM Punk comes back, and just to see what they do with him and where they take it. Because even though I think it's kind of cooled the buzz, that it's going to get attention, and that whatever they choose to do with him, people are going to check out. I just hope that they don't botch it again. I really, really hope that they don't botch it again. We'll see.
I mean, there's no indication that they won't, because again, the presentation skills at AEW are lackluster. As someone that grades for a living, I would have to say that it's still like a D when it comes to presentation. And I think that they're going about bringing people back. I mean, again, listen, I was watching Dynamite on Wednesday with my cousin Daniel. By the way, shout out to him, big fan of the show. We're looking at Adam Cole getting beat down by the Jericho Appreciation Society, along with Orange Cassidy and Bandito. And all of a sudden we see the music turn up, music we don't recognize. We're seeing the stage go pitch black, and we're like, okay, who is this? We don't recognize this music. Not that AEW music is like easily distinguishable to begin with, but we're like, and we looked at each other when we see Roderick Strong run down the aisle, okay, beat down everybody, and then they hug and they embrace, and oh my God, Roderick Strong and Adam Cole reunited. They're gonna take on the Jericho Appreciation Society, and I'm like, what? Roderick Strong left NXT for this?
Yeah.
Very
anticlimactic, it really, really is.
It almost seems like going to I don't know, like being in Hoboken at 2:45 when last call, and you're waiting for the season. Oh, which is that one chick I can hit on maybe to take home right before last call or right before the doors close. It's really, really anticlimactic. Moving on to SmackDown here. Another good number once again, a little over 2.2, and not a surprise. Obviously, there was going to be a lot of eyes because of the draft, and obviously we all knew that was coming. We saw a lot of movement in the draft this past Friday. We'll see it culminate tomorrow with what names will be bouncing back and forth between Raw and SmackDown. Maybe some new NXT call-ups. Again, speculation running rampant that maybe Braun Breaker will be summoned to Raw, since obviously it seems like a good portion of Raw roster spots on the draft are going to be filled tomorrow. But solid numbers again. We look at SmackDown 2.2 over the weekend, 2.1 on April 21st, 2.26 on April 14th, 2.468 on April 7th. Obviously, the SmackDown right after WrestleMania. The SmackDown WrestleMania weekend, obviously that Friday, 2.373. Solid numbers. And it's interesting because we know that SmackDown, for all intents and purposes, is going to become the flagship show for WWE now. Obviously, it's the show that has Roman Reigns on. The Bloodline primarily is on SmackDown. That's what's driving merch sales. That's what's driving ratings and all the metrics. And it's funny for all the fans and the marks online that seem to go into these diatribes and all these tantrums. Well, WWE's becoming too predictable. WWE's not fresh enough. Well, it's still fresh because it's still drawing 2.2, 2.3, 2.4 at times. And I think just looking at the numbers for this year, only a couple of times did it crack at 2.5-ish. That was right, I think, in January. Actually, the night before the Royal Rumble. No surprise there. One of the more premier PLEs. SmackDown continues to be in the 2 ranges. It might crack 2.5 again this weekend, the night before Backlash, since both SmackDown will be live and the next day it'll be live in San Juan, Puerto Rico. Folks, hide your valuables when you go to the arena. Obviously, lock your car doors when you park outside.
You just made the list!
El Coliseo there in downtown San Juan. I'm sure it'll be another good number, Pat.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, they continue to be the best wrestling program out there. I don't think anything's going to change even after the draft. So it's just more of the same for them, and they just keep delivering. It's like the polar opposite from Dynamite. You know what I mean? Like, and you know, granted, yeah, the talent's there, but I mean, this all goes back to the foundation of AEW, man. I mean, the fact that they didn't want to use any of their stars in a way that they should have used their stars, because they didn't want to be like TNA, because they didn't want to be like WCW, because they didn't want to do X, Y, and Z. Bro, if you have stars, if you have people that people know, why are you not going to put them in the main event? Why are you not going to build big programs around them? You know what I mean? Why are you not going to promote them to be an attraction? That's what they're there for. Instead, no, we're going to use them to put over this young guy that nobody gives 3 drops of piss about. What kind of fucking logic is that? You know?
Well, speaking about not giving 3 drops of piss, here just announced for Wednesday. Get ready. I'm glad you're sitting and I'm glad you're vaping, because coming up on Wednesday will be the 3 de Mayo Trios Battle Royale. It'll be a battle royale of trios, going at it on 3 de Mayo. In addition to the rest of the stacked card on Wednesday, Ricky Starks will take on Juice Robinson. So again, the trios. I can't even say it.
El 3 de Mayo.
I might need to start vaping just to get through this. A trios tag team battle royal will include the Dark Order of John Silver, Alex Reynolds, and Evil Uno. They'll be facing the Acclaimed, Max Caster, Anthony Bowens, and Billy Gunn. They'll be facing QT Marshall, Powerhouse Hobbs, and Aaron Solo, which will be facing the Butcher, the Blade, and Kip Sabian, which will be facing the Lucha Brothers and Vikingo, which will be facing the Varsity Athletes, Tony Nese and Josh Woods, along with Ari Daivari. The Outcast Saraya will take on Willow Nightingale in a singles match. And the Jericho Appreciation Society of Jake Hager, Matt Menard, Angelo Parker, and Daniel Garcia will take on Orange Cassidy, Bandito, Roderick Strong, and Adam Cole. That's your card. Along with MJF and Sammy Guevara will be facing Darby Allin and Jack Perry. Again, if Jack Perry and Darby Allin win, they'll be added to the title match on Double or Nothing. I might need a drink after announcing all that.
El 3 de Mayo, the trios.
That is a stack card, bro. But
may the 4th be with them, you know, and you know, hopefully they'll enjoy Cinco de Mayo too, the day after.
They might need to drink on Cinco de Mayo.
Yeah. I mean, that's a lot. That's a lot. That is a lot to process right now. But hey, man, whatever.
And mind you, I said it all without even ingesting Adderall or cocaine, which is, you know, that's what Excalibur does on Wednesday. Where he's like that's what he does.
Well, the snowman. Everybody knows about the snowman.
I mean, folks. You want to listen? If you need a reason to drink early before Cinco de Mayo, do it on 3 de Mayo this Wednesday on Dynamite. That's for sure. But again, getting back to SmackDown, good numbers once again. I'm sure that into the go home show the night before for Backlash in San Juan, Puerto Rico this Saturday coming up. It should be interesting as well. Pat, our main event topic this week, and really I think it sort of speaks for itself. It would appear that CM Punk, Phil Brooks, might just be the most interesting man right now in professional wrestling. Prove me wrong.
I agree with that 100%. I think that, you know, while Roman's not around, while everything's kind of just business as usual, Punk is just really getting a lot of news, a lot of buzz, a lot of hype around him. And he's a smart guy. You know, that's one thing that you could say about Punk. He's a very, very intelligent dude, the best talker of his generation, bar none. One of the best workers of his generation, too. But just a guy that really knows how to get people to talk about him, and people are talking about him. I mean, he showed up backstage on Monday Night Raw when they were in Chicago. It was my understanding that he was on a flight with some of the boys and the girls that were coming back from Florida to Chicago for Raw, and some people invited him. He went backstage. One of the big things was he was able to mend fences with The Miz, who he and The Miz had a pretty dicey relationship based on some Twitter encounters there. But, you know, really interesting to see him do that. Really interesting to see him at a different phase in his life. And then also, from what was reported, had a bit of a meeting or a conversation with Triple H. So who knows where that could lead? Who knows what the situation is there? I kind of think it's more of what I was talking about before, that I think he just misses the business. And I think he knows that, a lot of people like him and he's welcomed into a lot of places. But it was also reported, I'd also like to add this as well, that he was asked to leave. Now, some people say that was a Vince McMahon call, might have been a Triple H call, might have been a bit of both. Maybe Triple H told him in the room, hey, man, nice to see you, and maybe they settled their differences. And he said, look, you're under contract over there. This guy, the Snowman, is, accusing us of tampering. This would kind of look like it's tampering. Maybe it's best that you go. But, obviously Vince McMahon, in the Technodrome or wherever he's located, the evil layer of Vince McMahon, kind of like, what's his name? The dude from Inspector Gadget. Where,
it's funny you mentioned that, Dr. Claw. I mean,
Dr. Claw, yeah.
Like, it's almost like people think, and again, going back to sort of like this ongoing paranoia or conspiracy that Vince is still calling creative, right? And by the way, folks, if you saw the SmackDown on Friday and then you saw Saturday morning, sort of like the additional call-ups, like there's no way you can sell me or Pat on the reality that Vince McMahon is controlling creative when Zoe Starks gets elevated from NXT to Raw. Okay, right. There's no way.
Or Apollo Crews,
Apollo Crews, or that Bronson Reed is challenging for the coveted United States Heavyweight Championship Saturday night in Puerto Rico during Backlash. So if you still think that Vince is, again, and I think that Pat, we talked about this off the air, I think we were sort of envisioning every crazy scenario. It's almost like people think that Paul's in creative, they're with Bruce Pritchard and William Regal and whoever else, and there's like a red phone. If you all remember Commissioner Gordon during the 1960s Adam West Batman series, like there's a red phone there with a flasher. And whenever Vince doesn't like something from the lair, right, with like, the cat that he's like scratching, like, in Blofeld, right, if you remember the original 007 movies, right, the mastermind for the Spectre criminal organization, he's like, or Dr. Evil there, he's there with his little kitty cat scratching his head, and he's there, or Dr. Claw and he picks up the phone and he's like, Paul, I don't like this. And like whenever Paul is there in creative and he sees that phone flashing, oh shit, folks, everyone, put your phones on silent. Vince is calling. And he's picking up, all right, Vince, what should we do? Like, that's not happening. You know what I'm saying? Like, that just isn't happening.
No. But that's the visual that Marks have in their heads. Here's another one that I think it's gonna spawn a conspiracy theory, but you're gonna get the people that are gonna think that Apollo Crews got called up because he was mentioned in that lawsuit. That the lawsuit that came up recently from the ex-writer, the ex-employee, where they were, saying that apparently there was some sort of racist storylines proposed and all this other stuff. And I mean, look, for as long as we've been watching wrestling, a lot of the characters have been stereotypes. It's just what they are. You know what I mean? It's what people connect with.
Hello. I mean, think about it during the Attitude Era, right? Like the Disciples of Apocalypse, a bunch of white guys in a motorcycle gang.
Yeah.
Los
Boricuas.
Yeah, I mean, bro, that was a stereotypical Upper West Side, Spanish Harlem on the East Side. Bro, that was the Jersey City Puerto Rican Day Parade and the New York City Bowl into one. Right?
The Nation of Domination. You know what I'm saying? The Black Power Brothers. Stone Cold Steve Austin, the beer drinking redneck. Well, I'm gonna tell you, it's the bottom line. DX, I mean, so a lot of this, stems from stereotypes. A lot of these characters are stereotypes. The Iron Sheik, you know what I mean? Like you go through the history of wrestling and that's what you're going to find. Roddy Piper, from Scotland wearing a kilt, like all of these things have been around forever. And there's different types of personalities in wrestling and there always will be. But I think like a lot of this stuff seems to stem from people who did not like stuff that was going on in a writer's room, and they took that stuff a little bit personally. And then look, if you've ever been in a writer's room, whether it's for TV, for movies, or even improv, which I've been around that in acting classes, people come up with a lot of out there kind of stuff, and a lot of stuff is said and it's thought about. And maybe for somebody who's not initiated, who's not familiar with the wrestling business, they're going to hear that and they're going to think negatively about that. But we'll see where a lot of that stuff goes. But I just think that Punk, getting back to Punk.
Yeah.
He's just a very, very smart dude. And he knows that he's building up a lot of buzz. And a lot of people even said that they think he's just hyping up his AEW return. Do I think he's going to stay in AEW? Like, do I think that that's going to be the company he's going to retire in? I don't know, man. I don't know, because there's a lot of money to be made in WWE. And a lot of the people that people thought were never going to go back ended up back in WWE and got inducted into the Hall of Fame. So, I think it's smart of him to just mend fences and to kind of take the temperature, so to speak, with WWE.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. I think that was a smart move. I think he's being very proactive about where his career is headed now, because let's be honest, ladies and gentlemen, we're entering the twilight years for CM Punk. He's not a spring chicken anymore. Even though he's been off, he was away for 7 years. He's, for the most part, his body got, the rest he needed. And he's been out since September, right? He's been either healing, was it a torn pectoral muscle or a torn tricep? I'm not sure.
Torn tricep.
Torn tricep. It needed surgery. That's not something you heal from in 2 or 3 weeks, okay? Right. You sort of do its due diligence, right? Medically, go through PT, physical therapy, etc. And I think he probably is looking at, as you said, about taking the temperature. How does Paul Levesque vis-a-vis also Vince McMahon feel? Hey, listen, I know this is what I'm making in AEW. What are the chances of coming back here? Obviously, the idea about mending the fence. And I think we've learned, right? You just said it right now. Vince McMahon / Paul Levesque are very, amenable to fixing, sort of settling old grudges, being intermediaries in trying to settle past heat, right? Didn't we hear that all the years that Bruno Sammartino was bashing Vince McMahon and WWF / WWE because his product, it was too racy, it was too adult-oriented, whatever. What did Paul Levesque do? Year after year, he kept chipping away, kept talking to Bruno. And who would have thought about Bruno Sammartino appearing at the Hall of Fame, making a speech after years of lambasting Vince McMahon? To your point about the Ultimate Warrior, Jim Hellwig, who would have thought what happened in 1991 at SummerSlam, that he would ever come back and be in the good races? He came back in 96. He burned that bridge. He came back, mended fences with Vince McMahon. Bret Hart, after Vince McMahon screwed him in Montreal in 1997.
He didn't screw him. He didn't want to do his job, all right? Stop. Fake news, Uribe. Fake news, Fernando.
Who would have thought in 2010 that he would be back on Monday Night Raw? Who would have thought that Hulk Hogan, after everything that happened with the steroid trials in 1993, after everything else, that he'd be back on WWE television? I mean, again, Vince McMahon and Paul Levesque have shown themselves that if it's good for business, they'll swallow their pride, because at the end of the day, they want to see more zeros at the end of that spreadsheet. You know what I'm saying? When they look at that product sheet and they look at revenues grossed, merch, gate, metrics, how many views, maybe new subscriptions to Peacock, right? Where you're watching a PLE and having to endure 55 ads during a live show.
If you're a fucking cheapskate.
Well, I bet you this Saturday, folks, write it down. Here's a Charles Barkley guarantee you'll see at least 25 ads during a live fucking show. That's how.
So what? They're still gonna watch. If you don't like it, don't watch. Upgrade your subscription. Come on, man.
What's that?
You upgrade your subscription then, or stop watching. One or the other, man. But what's gonna happen.
Give me your user password.
What? No,
I got a lot of expenses.
No, password sharing is illegal. I have 2 living human expenses running around here. Okay. I have 2 of them, all right, and I still managed to pay the extra $5.
Well,
so I don't get the ads.
Well, again, you seem to be very good with money, as am I. But I don't know. I'm sort of prioritizing my spending and other things.
Maybe don't buy so many books. All right, maybe a little less on the cowboy stuff. I mean, maybe those action figures back there. I know a really great guy that gave them to you, but maybe a little bit less. What's that?
They're worth a lot of money.
They are worth a lot of money, to the 5 fans that like FTR.
I'm not going to sell it to compensate my Peacock subscription. I'm not going to do that. I won't. I refuse to.
Well, maybe don't go out so much. All right, stop buying all the drinks for these hussies. These harlots.
Listen, I'm a local celebrity. I'm a local celebrity. I have to be out and about.
Marky's a local celebrity too.
You just made the list.
Well, I mean, he's in a different circle. He's in his part of there's a little difference between him and I in the sense of what's that?
I would say so.
I can't with this. I totally walked into that. I swear to God, I can't.
I saw him recently. He had messed up his hand. He had broken his hand or something to that effect. But he was explaining to me that he had a ton of micro fractures all over his hand. I mean, it's awful, man. Wishing him all the best. Wishing you all the best, Mark.
Well, absolutely. But getting back to the point of like Paul and Vince are going to do what's best for business. I think you're absolutely correct. Phil Brooks went back there, take a temperature. Hey, listen, when my deal's up, how amenable are you? Are you receptive to having me come back? And I'll be very honest with you. The idea of a CM Punk return to WWE, I think would do great gate, whether it's against Roman Reigns or Seth Rollins or other personalities and other talent on both rosters, all three rosters, whatever. I think it remains to be seen. But, not a surprise, though, man, that he was there. And, again, weren't the marks all up in hysteria? Oh, Vince, but to your point, legally, that's a smart business move by Vince. The last thing you need is the AEW chief legal officer saying, hey, why is one of our contracted talents backstage at a facility that's a WWE show? Who initiated the meetup? Who called who? Who solicited a visit? You know what I'm saying? Like, these are all things I think you want to avoid from a legal perspective.
Well, I mean, that's all been pretty normal in the business. I mean, we've seen, you know what? I'm going to go Dave Meltzer on this one.
Uh-oh.
There you go. Now I'm doing the Dave Meltzer.
Can you do the Dave Meltzer voice?
Well, I mean, CM Punk's a star. I mean, everybody knows it. I mean, he's gotten about 5-star ratings in my matches. Just didn't do a Canadian Destroyer, so I didn't give him the 6-star. But I mean, it's a smart move for him. It's a smart move for WWE to cover their ass, to just say, hey, Snowman is going to think X, Y, and Z. This isn't a good look for any of us. Maybe, what's the old saying that people say? It's not goodbye, it's see you later, and maybe he'll be back. But I agree with you, man. I think if he goes back to WWE, it would be huge. I mean, him and Roman, him and Cody, him and Rollins, him and Gunther. I mean, him and a lot of other people on that roster. It would be great stuff. His character work is fantastic. And, you think if you do him and Roman, I mean, him and Heyman going at it, that's going to be something interesting to see too. So,
you know what? It almost seems funny that as soon as you start hearing these rumors about Punk maybe returning, it's like, oh, maybe, it's in Philadelphia, the birthplace of ECW, Extreme, whatever, that like, hey, maybe that's a great way to get Punk back. But according to what research I did here, in 2021, I believe he signed a 3-year deal, which would mean that he still wouldn't be eligible to be a free agent until sometime in 24. And to your point, previously during the show, he still has to make up that time he lost due to injury, which will probably have him carry into 2025. So I don't, the idea of CM Punk returning to WWE television, I think, is a far-fetched reality because, again, it doesn't seem to coincide with the way his contract is structured presently right now.
Boo.
Well, the only way I could see it happening is if there's like a buyout that's negotiated, something like that. But again, we don't know yet. If I was Tony Khan, I wouldn't get rid of him just yet. You need him. You need that guy. You need that guy like you need a rolled up dollar bill or a cut up straw. You need him. And, he's definitely somebody that can help draw ratings. Could also help dudes like FTR, who aren't the biggest character guys. Fantastic wrestlers.
Why would he need a roll up dollar? Why would Tony Khan need a roll up dollar or a cut up straw? I don't know. I'm missing the. I'm sorry.
Because he's this. Oh wait, hold on a second. Here, I'll tell you why. Because he's the Snowman, and everybody knows that he's the Snowman. So that would be pretty obvious, And he'd be all hopped up on the powdery gimmicks on the booger sugar, and he'd be like, Punk, I really need you to come back to TV. That's probably how he hears everything in his head right now with this echo.
Probably.
But I wouldn't get rid of him if I was Tony Khan. I'd use that guy to try and squeeze whatever money, interest I can. You got that
stadiums that need to be filled, maybe. I don't know. Yeah,
stadium, you need to sell some tickets for, which, by the way, I had sent you a picture of some of the prices. I mean, for me personally, man, if I was Tony Khan, I would try and go affordable on the tickets to try and pack the place. You know what I mean? That's the objective. You want to make it look like there's way more AEW fans than there actually are. So you really need to be giving away these motherfucking tickets. And for him to price it, kind of similarly to what WWE priced their tickets for Clash at the Castle, it's a little dumb. It's a little dumb. Now, what happens between now and then, we don't know. Who knows? Maybe certain people will sign with the company, certain people will debut. We don't know. We don't know what can happen between now and then. But I just think that
you have 2 pay-per-views before that. You have Double or Nothing this month.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, later on next month, the Memorial Day weekend. You have AEW / New Japan Forbidden Door coming to you from Chicago in late June. You have the premiere potentially, I believe, and don't quote me on it, folks, but I think it's Saturday, June 17th.
Yep.
Emanating from the United Center for the premiere of AEW Collision, which I think seems to be the show that's going to premiere Saturdays, 8 p.m. Eastern time to 10 p.m. Eastern time. I mean, I don't know why you would. Again, it's a summer show. And then aside from Dynamite and Rampage, you have this new show, and you have to be able to, I guess, generate enough interest, to your point, to get that show filled. And then the following week in Chicago, you have All Out. So a lot of buildings to pack. You need star power, right?
absolutely you need a ton of star power. Obviously, you got a legend like Goldberg out there. You might want to throw some money to him.
Yeah, Bill Goldberg. Yeah, Bill Goldberg's certainly a name you want to go after.
Bill Goldberg, yeah, he would be a guy that you would definitely want to sign. We still don't really know what's going on with Drew just yet. Maybe Drew could be that guy that could go over there. Remains to be seen, but he definitely needs to get as many stars as he can.
He'd be dumb to leave.
I don't think so, Fern. If they're giving him more money and he's, in the later end of his career, Steve Miller, bro, take the money and run. You know what I'm saying, bro? Take the money and run. Because that's what I would do. I mean, look, is it going to be great? Is it going to be the best stuff of his career? Is it going to be as big as what WWE does? No, it's not. It's not. But if the money is right and they're offering you more money than WWE is willing to give you, you got to consider it. You got to consider it.
Yeah, but then the speculation runs rampant about okay, if you sign Drew Galloway for the sake of argument and you want to get that name to headline the show in London, what do you listen? I know that it triggers me a lot, but if the end game is to have Drew Galloway and Bill Goldberg, that's not going to sell out a stadium. I'm sorry. I'll plant a flag on the hill and I'll die on that hill. That's not going to your point about you have to make tickets more affordable. Yes, number one. Number two, that's not going to sell out Wembley. Galloway and Goldberg, that's not going to sell out Wembley Stadium.
I don't think Goldberg would be the match for him. I think maybe Goldberg versus CM Punk would be a little bit more interesting.
Not help us.
I think even Goldberg, why not Goldberg versus Sting? You know what I'm saying? Goldberg versus Sting. Who knows? Who knows what they could do?
Why would you wish that? Why would you want people traveling thousands of miles to see Bill Goldberg and Sting, bro? No, man.
But these are two characters that still make a lot of money in merchandise. You know what I mean? They generate a lot of money and a lot of interest in their household names. You need household names at this show. For me, for Drew, I would think the match would be him and MJF for the title. I think that would be really, really good.
I mean, again, I think
Drew's gonna outsize him completely. Drew's gonna look like a monster next to him, but MJF can carry it, with the shtick.
I absolutely agree. I agree with you. I just think that, listen, getting back to Punk, obviously that's a name that Tony Khan needs on television. He needs a boost in these ratings. Again, we're talking about 800,000s for weeks now, if not months. And going into Double or Nothing and going into Forbidden Door and going into, again, you're thinking the way that certain storytelling is going on, you're probably going to have a Blood and Guts event at one of the Dynamites or maybe at Double or Nothing. Who knows? You have to find ways to make the show compelling. Punk, for better or for worse, makes the show compelling. What he's going to do when he returns, I think, again, it'll help in the short term. But AEW still has a long-term problem in terms of keeping mainstream eyes on their product. Okay? You would think that with all the resources they have and the new show, take advantage of talent that's
think we lost the professor there for a sec. But to his point, Tony Khan needs big stars there. He needs household names. He needs people that have a following, I think, again, given the fact that there's such a big indie presence in England, Germany, and in other parts of Europe, I think a lot of those fans are going to show up because of that. But again, you want to draw people to your product. You want to create new fans. You got to go with household names like Bill Goldberg. You got to go with, guys like Drew, who were just coming from WWE TV.
Drew got drafted to Raw.
Oh, he did?
He's not going anywhere, dude. He got drafted to Raw.
He did. Okay. Well, I didn't check the draft part.
I think that's why he blacked all the stuff out because of the draft.
Okay. Well, pardon the error here, folks. Drew McIntyre is not going anywhere.
Tony can't afford him, bro.
Well, but he could. He has money. I just think that it's up to Drew what works best for him at this point in his life.
And he's in love with Sheamus, dude. That's his buddy.
Yeah, of course. I mean, and they have great matches. So, hey, good for Drew. That's awesome that he's sticking around. It takes him off the table for Tony Khan, but I think he's just gonna make a big run at every time.
Are you holding the mic for Heat?
Yeah,
okay.
I am.
Right.
What kind of heat? I don't know. How this even generates heat? It's fucking beyond me. But there you go. But I just think he's gonna definitely try and go for a lot of legends. He's gonna try and go for a lot of indie guys that have a lot of buzz. European guys too. I'm sure he's gonna want to pack it with them. Get all their friends and their mom and dad and their fucking local preacher to come on down and check them out at Wembley Stadium. And I think that's one of the best ways to go. Profe, it's good to have you back. I'm sure you had technical difficulties over there.
Man,
the generator kicked back in at the Uribe compound.
I don't know this rain, man. I don't know what's doing. I have no idea what's doing to Verizon Fios. Go wonder. I guess, but no. But Pat, I did catch what you were saying there, bro. It's really interesting about the weeks and months ahead. As you said before, there's some big names that are out there, some big fish to sign, and Tony Khan obviously isn't. Listen, there's no shortage of money, right? You signed Roderick Strong this week. You signed this person, that person. It seems like there's almost an unlimited checkbook for Tony Khan and his father Shad when it comes to trying to get more eyes on this product.
Well, here's another thing too that I think we could consider as well that he's probably going to do. He's going to have a lot of Premier League player presence there, which that's big. So. Because that's the biggest league in England. So he's probably gonna bring in a lot of Premier League players.
He doesn't do that here in the States. I'm sorry to cut you off. He doesn't do that here in the States. He doesn't get mainstream people that are on TNT or TBS to come on. Jade Cargill and MJF go on Impractical Jokers in that show, but Tony Khan is not giving me the confidence that if he doesn't do it in North America to get sort of pop culture crossover there. Suddenly he's going to do it in England?
It's a bigger venue. I mean, he needs to fill it up, Over here they have some crossover stuff, but it's not really on the level of a WWE. That's
Darby Allin was on Tony Hawk's podcast and he admitted he's a professional skateboarder.
There you go. So look at that. But I mean, he's going to have to bring in a lot of big names to get people interested in this. He's going to have to use a lot of the indie guys there. And most importantly, he's going to need CM Punk because for better or worse, this guy has a huge cult-like following in the business. Fans love him. And to not have him there on a stadium show is just completely ridiculous. Completely ridiculous.
No, I agree with you. And it's definitely something to keep an eye out for. Pat, before we call it a night here, on this day in pro wrestling history, the 30th of April in 1977 in Baltimore, Maryland, superstar Billy Graham defeated Bruno Sammartino to win the WWF World Heavyweight Championship to end Sammartino's second and final reign. Very historic one in itself. On this day in 1996, the Body Donnas, Skip and Zip, managed by Sonny, a.k.a. Tammy Sitch, retained the WWF Tag Team titles against the New Rockers, God help me, Mari Jannetty and Leif Cassidy at the Superstars of Wrestling tapings in Des Moines, Iowa.
R.I.P. Chris Candido real quick, man. One of the all-time greats in the business.
This past week, as a matter of fact. This past week.
Yeah. Yeah, New Jersey legend, man, wrestling legend, one of the best to ever do it. So shout out to the Cam man.
Also on this day in 1998, Chris Benoit defeated Booker T for the WCW World Television Championship. This would be the first of 5 consecutive days in which the title changed hands in their famous best of 7. Also on this day in 2000 at Backlash, The Rock defeated Triple H to win his 4th WWF World title in the main event, obviously in Washington, D.C. with some assistance from Stone Cold Steve Austin.
What?
Also, that's right. Also in 2003 at a TNA event in Nashville, Amazing Red defeated Kid Cash to win the coveted X Division Championship. Also in 2006 at WWE Backlash, Vince McMahon and Shane McMahon defeated Shawn Michaels and his allotted tag team partner, God. The match was fought under no holds barred rules and obviously was a de facto handicap match for Shawn Michaels, obviously at the hands of the evil McMahons. And also on at WWE Payback on this day in 2017, Chris Jericho regained the U.S. Championship from Kevin Owens. As a result of the U.S. title win, Jericho was moved to SmackDown and subsequently would be off WWE television within a few months. And obviously also on this day, 2018, Seth Rollins retained the Intercontinental title against Finn Balor in the main event of Monday Night Raw from the historic Molson Center in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. All this great stuff, folks, happening on the 30th of April, on this day in pro wrestling history. Pat, before we call it a show, what you got for us?
I just want to send a shout out to Johnny Depp for making shady facial hair really cool all those years ago. And I'd also like to send a shout out to a more modern guy who's made shady facial hair really cool, Mr. Pedro Pascal. So thank you so much, guys, for keeping this thing somewhat attractive to some type of women. We definitely got a show coming up. The Child Actors, you want to check that out. Check out at WTFproduction.com, if I'm not mistaken, or at WTF production at Gmail. So, that's definitely something you want to check out. Come on down to the VFW. We're going to be there Cinco de Mayo. It's going to be the Child Actors, Eye Destroyer, Chaotician, and Locaine.
I have a question. Is Mr. Uribe going to be in the building that night?
I will make
that might be a little too lowbrow for him. I don't know.
I will make an appearance briefly. I do have some things coming up this weekend, as Mr. Rivera knows. Yeah. But I will be making an appearance briefly. I am a man of the people, and I love music from all genres. So
just make sure you stop by the front of Dungeon booth and pop in.
Yeah, our very own D Rotten's going to be there as well with from the Dungeon with Stu Hart podcast. So he's going to be interviewing a lot of the talent as well that night. Maybe even me. I don't know if I want to do an interview that night. I'll see how I'm feeling. But it's going to be something you don't want to miss. So definitely come on out. $20 at the door. You can also hit up at WTF Productions or WTF Visuals on Instagram for any ticket information. So, and check out From the Dungeon podcast with our own Rockin' Body. She's going to be there. Rocky Rock. She's going to be talking all about the show. And check out that episode of From the Dungeon with Stu Hart podcast.
I'll dress accordingly because I know when I've gone in the past to some of Pat's shows, I showed up wearing a suit, and every guy in the bathroom was asking me if I had blow on me, which was really, really interesting. I'm going to try to dress.
It's true. It's 100% true.
Yeah, they all thought I was a coke dealer when I walked into a bar in the Jersey Heights. So
maybe the return of Frat Boy Fernando. I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know.
Maybe the return of Frat.
I don't know. We'll see.
I love that you developed a persona to wear a backwards hat and grow sideburns. It's fucking amazing. It's gold.
Bro, it's a whole new persona. It's like drinking Blue Moons and like slobbering all over chicks at the bar. Like, oh my God, how are you? And then like doing like remember what Rick James would do? He would just like kiss someone, just wipe their tongue all over their face. Like that was pretty much that's Frat Boy Fernando.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, I don't know what iteration of me that would be. I don't know. I've never been in a frat before, but I have fingered a chick in a Little Caesars. So
wow, I can't. Oh God, Jesus Christ.
But anyways, on that note, I bid you adieu. I gotta go.
Premier wrestling analyst Patrick Kennedy McRivera.
Yes, thank you so much for having me on, guys. I appreciate it. Look forward to coming back here with Working the Marks. Come on out to the show. I probably won't talk to you. I'll probably no-sell you, but come on out anyway. Check out the other bands. There's probably some nice people there, maybe even some girls. So keep on keeping on. Life's a garden, dig it. Plug your political gimmicks.
Thanks, Pat. Folks, again, great show here today with New Jersey Premier Wrestling analyst Patrick Kenny, Mick Rivera. Folks, tune in tomorrow night live at 6 p.m. Eastern Time for the latest edition of Real Talk with Fernando Uribe via Jersey First TV. I'll have Nicholas Luciano, the executive director of Safe Way Out, one of the premier domestic violence awareness organizations in the state of New Jersey. As domestic violence continues to be a serious problem in the Garden State, folks, we'll talk about what the state legislature is doing to provide relief for women and men who continue to be victims of domestic violence at a very, very high rate. Statistics are still up, where it's still a serious societal problem, not just in New Jersey, but also nationally. We'll talk about domestic violence awareness and prevention, that and much more tomorrow night, folks, live at 6 p.m. Eastern Time via Jersey First TV. Of course, folks, check out Working the Marks at our Facebook page, also via Famcast Media. Check us out on all of our social media platforms. Sharing is caring, and tune in every Sunday, folks, for the best breakdown of everything that's going on in professional wrestling and in sports entertainment. No one does it better, folks, than Working the Marks here on Famcast Media. I am New Jersey's premier award-winning journalist, saying so long, folks. Happy Sunday. Stay dry in this torrential rainstorm here as we will flip the calendar to the month of May. We'll see you next weekend, folks, here on Working the Marks via Famcast Media.
Famcast Media, bitch. Famcast Media.